lahat ng pera dyan na gastos dito sa away ng COVID ay maa-account. I will hold myself responsible for this sole and solemn duty of answering for and in behalf of the Executive Department of all the funds that were spent in the fight against COVID. Huwag kayong mag-alala kasi yung may kulang o nagkulang, kunin natin balik sa kanila o hindi. I assure you, I will be the one to endorse the case to the prosecuting office. Ako ang magpirma mismo. If we have through with the investigation, allow the Secretary of Justice to complete his investigation and his signature on the endorsement will be accompanied by my signature, and that will ensure na ang mga pera makita ninyo paano ginastos. I am asking the National Task Force on COVID-19 to properly report on how all the funds were spent and their intended purpose. Mga kababayan ko, do not mix up everything. Itong iskandalo, lalo na itong pera para sa kabutihan ng katawan ng tao, dalawa ang lumalabas sa limelight ngayon. Yung PhilHealth ang dapat imbestigahan, ang dapat i-prosecute lahat at dapat ikulong. Kung yan na lang ang trabaho ko sa maiwan ko sa 2 taon, yan na rin ang gagawin ko. One of the things that, few things that I can do in the remaining 2 years of my term, ubusin ko ito yung panahon ko to work on the cases for people who are involved in the PhilHealth. Itong pinag-usapan dito hindi ito PhilHealth. Pera ito sa COVID yung binigay. At hindi ito pwede masabi na blank check because that is not allowed. And I'm sure yung mga tao na iniwanan ko sa pera, lalo na kay Secretary Lorenzana, then si Rowley, and a lot of the guys there, they are military men na nakilala ko noon pa, matagal ng panahon, 10 years ago, o Lorenzana, about 20 years ago. Alam ko, Rowley, they are a bunch of an honest person. Huwag kayong mag-alala. Ikukwenta namin yung pera lahat. Iba yung PhilHealth. Iba yung sinabi, huwag kayong may sabihin na prepare na parang cheque. That's a reckless statement. Kasi gumagastos pa tayo, hindi pa tayo tapos. Allow us time to do our thing, spend the money, and there will always be a time for reckoning. And that will be the time when we account for the money that we have used in the fight against COVID. Huwag ho kayong ano dyan sa PhilHealth, pati yung itong sa Bayanihan 1 and 2. And even then, itong sa pera sa Bayanihan, I will still impose stricter measures. I will ask the finance guys nadagdagan. Kasali na dyan sila yung task force mismo at yung pinag-iniwanan ko ng pera, General Lorenzana, General Garbes, General Bautista, at ang buong IATF. Kasali na ako doon. Kaya nandyan yung garantiya. That is my guarantee to you. And including, I forgot to mention, he's always seldom mentioned si Bebot Belio ng Labor. Kasi bot yung inabit mo, binabasa ko pa sandali lang. Kasi may nag-object, tapos sabi ko, just give me time to review the objection, and I can simply say that huwag mo na masyadong magmadali. Busy talaga ako. Pero itong bot ito nagnakaw ng pera ng bayan, lalo na yung sa COVID, they will go to prison. I am sure. Pag wala akong nakita na magpakulong, magdampot ako ng 3 sa kanila, kulungin ko. Pilitin kong kulungin para may makulong lang talaga sa putang inang ginawa nila dito sa pera na tao. Sa ngayon, sa lahat, not only the COVID mechanism, yung PhilHealth, lahat, DPWH, Agriculture, DND, ipapublish yung mga, so they must prepare well in advance, because I would require them to publish in the newspaper, sa 3 newspaper of general circulation. Mamili na kayo kung anong newspaper gusto ninyo. Ipapublish ko ito, ang mga bibilihin. At pagkatapos, ipapublish ko, pagkatapos sa notice, sino yung bidders. Ipangalan nila. I want them na kung saan sila nakatira. In the same manner dyan sa customs ngayon, yung mga consignment na sa mga pangalan lang, hindi na pwede yan ngayon. Somebody must stand for them. Or, if need be, their lawyer. Their lawyer together with their clients. Kasi yung lahat ng mga binibigay ninyo na mga address, pagpuntahan ng mga tao ng customs, wala. O alam nila o hindi nila alam. Let us have Jagger. Sabi nila si Jagger daw ay corrupt. Well, that is just a statement. We will know, I said, when the time of reckoning comes. And that is that we will make everybody account for the money of government. Itong sa cabinet, another publication sa disbursement nila, kung ilan ang ginastos nila ngayong buwan na ito. O gusto mo, every 15 days para mas maganda. Every 15 days, you would know how much a department has disbursed money of the people. I am particularly yung PAPRO, DPWH, DND, sa awa ng Diyos, okay naman. Dswd, under General Bautista, okay rin. DPWH, Dole, medyo may, kaya nga may mga objections I'm reviewing the objections, but I will allow the rule to apply for them, yung mag-report sila ng respective agency disbursement. Ilagay nila magkano ang ginastos and for what. At the end of the month, maybe, or after, hindi, buwanan, mas maganda. Makita na nila kung yung pinuntahan ng pera, pumunta ba talaga at nagastos, at sino. That is in view of yung sama ng loob ng tao itong sa PhilHealth na ito. Lalo na itong PhilHealth, baski paperclip, i-publish ninyo at sino yung bidder na mag-supply ng paperclip, baski isa. Isabi mo dyan sa newspaper para mabasa. So I hope that I have made myself clear on this. More measures will come. Pero alam mo, marami ngayon, may naglalabas revolutionary government, tapos ako ang sinasabi na wala akong pakialam niyan, wala akong kilala ng mga tao na yan, at hindi ko yan trabaho. At ito namang kay Lenny that in her ending statement said that kung hindi ko daw gawin ng gobyerno, gagawin ng tao. Well, sa panahon itong pandemic, medyo desperado ang mga tao. Tapos nagdagan ninyo ng mga ganon, na wala naman kayong base, sana maipakita kayo. Please do not add fuel to the fire. You will just destroy government. Huwag ninyong sirain ang gobyerno kasi masisira ang tao. Pag nasisira ang gobyerno, lulutang tayo lahat. Baski na sabihin ba ninyo mamatay ako bukas, it cannot solve the problems of the country. May mga siguro, I think that, ano pa ba, nagbiruan kami. I had another meeting somewhere. Kanina sabi ko na ang may bigat na problema ngayon sa gobyerno, kasi wala pera, wala lahat, bangkarota, walang ekonomiya tumakbo ng ilang buwan, wala namang mga nagtatrabaho ng babayad ng buhay sa kanya. So I said that he's in a bind. He has the gravest problem dito sa mesa na ito. Pero he retorted that hindi ikaw ang may problema. Sunod ng ako. Sa totoo talaga yan. Alam mo, we have to, sabi nga we have to spend, salo na sa COVID, we have to spend, but we must have to spend wisely and correctly. Kaya naiwan. Kasi kung wala ng pera talaga, bangkaruta na, wala naman tayong kumita. Kung may magpahiram, kung walang magpahiram, maraming mamamatay. Hindi tayo makabili ng medisina. Kaya kung may pera, bayanihan, whether it's already part of one or two, I will make sure, as long as I have these guys here with me in the team, yung task force, yung pera ninyo, I have no doubt that they will not allow corruption. They have matagal na kami sa gobyerno, magpa-retire na lang. Bakit pa namin pagsayangan? Kung konting panahon na lang na iwan, so walang 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 ganang wala nang ganang kumain. May pera ka naman, hindi ka na makakain. Kaya sabi ng doktor, huwag kang kumain ng taba kasi mamatay ka. Ikaw, Duterte, huwag ka nang uminom kasi yung barit mo nearing stage 1 ka sa cancer. So, hindi na bebot yung paa. Ewan ko kung puputulin yan o hindi. Pero, o puro na may sakit. So, what do we get to be? Tanginang yan. Wala na. Ang amin, ang iwan na lang ang trabaho kasi pag harap namin sa Diyos, ang tanungin ko na, ikaw, Rodrigo, anong ginawa mo? Sabi ko, ginawa ko man lahat. Ito man si Dominguez ang walang pera. Saan niya pera? Naubos na niya, inutang na niya lahat. Wala namang pautang. Si Lorenzana, wala yan. Gumbala, pati armas, may ibigay yan. Pero medisina, kailangan pera, cold cash talaga yan. No, really, walang biro na to. If there's money, I can assure. Congress is free. Congress is free to participate or create oversight of committees of all sorts. Anong committee maisip ninyo sa COVID-1 or 2? Wala namang pati COVID-2 kung mayroon pa. Ilagay ninyo oversight, undersight, side-sight, igawain ninyo. At kung gusto ninyo to report yung mga tao weekly dyan para may trabaho tayong lahat. They can report to Congress weekly or at your choosing. Walang problema yan. I'm ready to order that. It is not a matter of separation of powers. Yan yung parang expanded oversight lang. Na gusto lang, it is never illegal to know where your money is going. Kaya I urge Congress, ilagay na ninyo ang lahat ng safety measures para walang palpak. Kung gusto ninyo, yun, yung sabi ko, itong sa newspaper, pati yung sa disbursement. Pag hindi pa kayo kontento, tawagin ninyo at ipa-explain ninyo kung ano yung disbursement na yan. Kung saan pupunta at anong benefit na makuha ng tao. I am urging Congress, as a matter of fact, I am demanding Congress to join us in putting up measures to ensure that the money is spent for its purpose. I am willing to give way. At saka, kung gusto ninyo ng accounting for every transaction, pwede rin. It might really cost a lot of time for the bureaucracy. But if you want every transaction to be audited right away for you to peruse and understand, we can do that. I repeat, we must participate everything that will prevent corruption. Okay, Sunny, can you make us the report now? I think you have the money now. You seem to be smiling. Or no money still.
Frowning will not do any good. So you might as well smile. Thank you, Mr. President. This is a brief update on the small wage subsidy program under the Biamy law that we implemented. So just to give you a quick update on it, it's up there. We wish to inform the President and my colleagues in the Cabinet on the latest update on the small business wage subsidy program and the factors that have made this program largely efficient and effective. Based on the factors and the adoption of the following principles for future subsidy programs. Number one, we think all subsidy programs in the future should be digitized. In other words, do through digitalization of all transactions. And number two, the direct distribution of aid should be through banks or e-wallet accounts of the intended beneficiaries. And one of the most important factors that made this a relatively successful program is close administration oversight of the critical steps of the program.
Saan sorry, but
Sure.
can you say it in a vernacular again?
Okay. Ito po, mahirap po gumawa ng kalokohan dito kung by computer. Talagang walang cash na hinahandle. Nobody can keep the cash. So the intended beneficiaries, yung mga employees ng small companies ay tumanggap ng subsidy.
Can I be allowed to?
Sure, please.
Ang maganda kasi dito sa yung wala ng transaksyon na may tao-tao. Puro ang makina na lang at diretso na sa... Ang pinaka-importante dito is yung paghulog sa bangko ng gobyerno, diretso ito sa empleyado. There is no intermediary and there is no intervention of any kind, lalo na tao, diretso sa inyo. Now, ang sabi ni Sani, kung may pagkakamali man, sa inyo na yan sa data or data, if you want to pronounce it that way. Na kayo ang nagkamali o baka nga minsan of course, ang nagbibigay ng pera, whatever agency that is, but it will lessen corruption. Ang isa pang bago na dinaanan ni Sani, na binigay na yung lahat ng departamento ngayon, aside from really yung mga transaction nila, is how much yung na-disburse nila. What is the amount of how much money has been disbursed so far?
On total, on this program,
On the program.
This program, 41 billion was disbursed.
Yung sa kung sa SSS, gano'n.
Yeah, galing sa true. Ang pera galing sa gobyerno pero ginamit namin yung sistema ng SSS.
Okay.
So, SSS itself did not pay. It's the money of the national government.
Okay, that's good.
So, ang 3 lessons dito, number 1, is management. You set the timeline and you set the milestone. Kung ano ma-achieve at this particular point. Number 2, officials ng SSS, BIR, at saka DBP, at saka DOF, sometimes they met 2 to 3 times a day para lang masigurado na okay yung system, gumagana yung sistema. And finally, kung kailangan, you bring in the experts from the private sector. Hindi natin, government does not know everything. So we brought in people from the private sector here, from Microsoft. Tinulungan din po kami ng Union Bank. By the way, Union Bank, malaking shareholder ho sa Union Bank, ang SSS. So they also help us. So if you have a problem, bring in the private sector to help you. And you can solve it very quickly. But importante ho yung management na every day you are on top of the situation. Do not let any problem grow big. Okay? Kasi pag malaki na, mahirap na i-correct. So finally, again that's why we took lessons here at pinasok ho namin sa bayanihan tulo na as much as possible, lahat ng tulong sa tao, give it through the banks, through Lulier, so no cash is handled, as little as cash as possible. So walang mangungupit, walang nawawala, So again, we learned a lot of lessons here, but ang pinaka-importante, ang management ng system.
Good evening, Mr. President. Maybe it's a good time to make a short report to you on what the task force PhilHealth has done so far since the day that you directed the Department of Justice to create the task force so that these big problems at PhilHealth may be addressed immediately. So I'd like to report to you, Mr. President, that all the component agencies of the task force, including the independent constitutional bodies, which we invited to help out in the task of the task force, have all been cooperating and supporting the task force in the discharge of its functions. They all understand the magnitude of the problem, Mr. President, and they also understand the need to effect immediate solutions to these problems. So, Mr. President, the strategy of the task force is as follows. Number one, we requested the component agencies of the task force to expedite their ongoing investigations or special audits or resolve cases that are already pending with them involving officials of PhilHealth. As a result of that request, the Office of the Ombudsman has already preventively suspended 13 key officials of PhilHealth for cases that have been filed with the Office of the Ombudsman even before the creation of the task force, Mr. President. In addition, the task force itself has been conducting hearings as a group, and we have invited resource persons and witnesses, but we have zeroed in on certain particular centers of fraud. In the hearings of the Senate and the House of Representatives, and also in other fact-finding or investigating reports. We are focusing, Mr. President, more particularly on these centers of fraud. Number one is the IT system of PhilHealth, as described earlier by Sec. Dominguez.
Sanya said, this is, as you have said, it's the system that's fractured.
A good system is good information. If you don't have a good information system, it's not gonna work. Okay.
Right now, Mr. President, the impression is that the information technology system of PhilHealth is fragmented, and it can easily be manipulated because there is no centralized control over the management information system. Number two, Mr. President, in our areas of focus is the legal sector. This seems to be one of the biggest sources of, well, allegedly fraudulent activities. We're still conducting our investigation, Mr. President, but so far, in the fact-finding and investigation reports that we have received so far, including those from the Senate and the House of Representatives, it seems that the legal sector is a very ripe source of irregularities. Number three, Mr. President, is what is known as the Interim Reimbursement Mechanism, or IRM. We are focusing on that particular scheme, and this afternoon, the task force held its meeting, which zeroed in on the Interim Reimbursement Mechanism device. And lastly, also, Mr. President, on financial management. This is, again, one area where we believe that many irregularities in the past have been committed. In addition to the work, Mr. President, of the task force as a collective group, we also created composite teams to follow through the information that we received during the task force hearings or meetings. So these composite teams, Mr. President, are normally composed of the NBI, COA auditors, the AMLC, money laundering, and also the PACC, the Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission. Even as these composite teams are going through the process of investigating more deeply these alleged irregularities, we are also conducting lifestyle checks of certain key officials of PhilHealth so that we can connect the irregularities that we uncover during the investigation with the lifestyle of these people. So there might be a reinforcing effect. If we see that these guys are probably involved in this particular irregularity, they're making money, and it's being shown in their lifestyle. So, Mr. President, our ultimate objective within the time limit that you gave us is to be able to file legal actions with the Office of the Ombudsman. And also, we will try to make use of the reports that we receive from the Senate and the House of Representatives. Because as you probably very well know, the investigations that they conducted were supposed to be in aid of legislation, but the same evidence will be used also for the purpose of filing legal action, and that's a job of the task force. Mr. President, even as we do this, we hope to be able to make recommendations as well for structural reforms at PhilHealth. In the course of our investigation, we'll probably be able to discover what structural reforms need to be done at PhilHealth, and we're hoping that in this regard, Mr. President, the governance commission for government-owned and controlled corporations, which is under the Office of the President, GCG, Mr. President, will be able to make proposals for the reorganization, whether partial or total, of PhilHealth. More specifically, we have broached the idea to the GCG of creating an interim management committee for PhilHealth. And it's something that probably the Office of the President may direct the GCG to do so that they'll do it more immediately. Finally, Mr. President, we hope that the job or the work of the task force may also help in one way or another Congress in crafting new legislation to strengthen PhilHealth and make it more responsive to the needs of the people. That's all, Mr. President.
Okay, let me ask you this. This is a very troublesome office for all of us historically. Can we do it sa customs?
Customs, if you go to the customs office now, si Jagger has a very sophisticated system for monitoring all the shipments in the main ports in the country. Please visit. You didn't see it eh. You didn't go inside eh. He has done as he's quite advanced sa ano eh, sa digitalization. Pero again, hindi pa perfect. But he's moving towards that. In other words, alam ni Jagger at any time which shipment is being processed in what port. So he can, and then they monitor kung magkano ang value ng shipment and how much they collect the taxes. If you use the information well, you can tell which is out of the ordinary and you can spot that. Now, it's not perfect again, pero it's good getting there. So I think sa SONA, you mentioned that e-governance is very important, and I think Senator Go filed a bill on e-governance to eliminate red tape. So it makes it easier for the citizen to deal with you. It makes it easier for you to deal with them. So this is quite an important move.
Time to be, we've been training our horses for quite a long time, out of friendship, out of gratitude, helping me. I'm talking about me. Being president, so I had the help of this guy, the support of this guy, the party of what not. Ganito yan kay Jagger. I believe you. Si Jagger naman kasi I I told him to fire Humamil. Kaya sabi ko, but it took him quite about a lot of seasons to do it. No, but he was still there. Sabi ko kay Jagger, or through somebody, sisirain kanyan. Kay ito si Humamil, matagal na yan dyan sa airport, napaka-corrupt yung putang ina na yan. Sabi ko, huwag mo niya ikat yan. Alam mo, yan lang ang nakita ko na dalawang trabaho, board member ng DBP at nagtatrabaho sa customs. Kaya sabi ko kay Jagger, bitawan mo yan, huwag kang maniwala. Maybe because Jagger was new at the time and he would need somebody to guide him to navigate to all of this hula-bulo sa Congress. Pero sabi ko ito si Humamil, tanggalin mo yan kasi yan, naglalaro yan matagal na siya. Butit na lang, I think he was also suspended by the ombudsman. Parang double whammy siya. Pero I have to name him publicly for being, ano ba ang tawag ko sa iyo? Sa Bisaya na lang. Putang ina, balasubas nga eh. Alam mo bakit Bisaya ka? Ang mahirap sa iyo, sa panahon ko, you took advantage maybe because you helped me. And I want you to repay by just closing my eyes. I cannot understand why he was holding DBP director at the same time he was an employee of the customs. Sabi ko kay Drager, bitawan mo yan pag hindi sisirain ka. Ay, malapit talaga siya nasira. Or else considering, Jagger was considering of replacing you. Not because of anything. I can vouch na malinis ka. problem is in do not entertain loyalties, especially in government. If you think that that idiot is going to destroy you, you destroy him first. Do you have slides
Yes, Mr.
so that
President.
we can follow you?
Mr. President and fellow members of the Cabinet, good evening. The purpose of this presentation is to discuss the fund utilization for the Social Amelioration Program, or SAP, under the Dswd and provide necessary updates regarding the number of beneficiaries served for the first and second tranche. At this point, allow me to begin by showing the summary of the Dswd's total budget for the Social Amelioration Program. For the whole implementation of the program, the Dswd has a total budget of 207.6 billion pesos. This is broken down into the 197 billion pesos released by the DBM, which was sent in tranches on April 2, April 16, and June 24, and the 10.6 billion pesos, which came from the realigned regular budget of the Dswd in order to support the necessary budgetary requirements of the program. The Dswd, along with our payout partners, both in the direct and digital schemes, have been working hard to ensure that the subsidy be distributed to its intended recipients. We remain committed in this undertaking to secure the 100% accomplishment rate. This concludes my presentation. Daghang salamat at mabuhay po tayong lahat.
Thank you. It's a very good report.
The Department of Labor and Employment implemented three major programs, Mr. President, for workers in the formal and informal sectors, and especially the OFWs who have been badly affected by COVID-19. For these programs, Mr. President, we had a total funding of 12,400,000,000 sourced from the DOLE 2020 regular budget, 4.8 billion, Bayanihan 2.5 billion, and the recently released repatriation funds of 5 billion, Mr. President. Nagpapasalamat po yung mga OFW, Mr. President, because we did not really ask for this fund, but we were all surprised when you gave us 5 billion for repatriation expenses. The first major program of CAMP, Mr. President, of DOLE is called the CAMP, or COVID-19 Adjustment Measures Program. It is a safety net that provides one-time financial assistance to the amount of 5,000 pesos to workers in the formal sector where there is an employer-employee relationship, regardless, of course, of the status of employment, whether regular, casual, contractual, or even probationary. CAMP has a total budget of 3,311,000,000 plus, sourced from our regular budget funds. It benefited 662,213 workers in the formal sector. We have fully utilized, Mr. President, our funds for CAMP in June 2020. However, our CAMP applicants reached 1.6 million workers coming from almost 60,000 establishments. Hence, close to 1 million workers have not been served. However, Mr. President, all CAMP applications have been shared with DOF and SSS for their small business wage subsidy program. And for this, about 183,000 CAMP applicants have been benefited by the Small Business Wage Subsidy of the Department of Finance and SSS. Thank you to Secretary Dominguez, Mr. President.
Yeah, with your inspiring leadership, Mr. President, gusto kong ibalita sa inyo at siguro alam na rin ninyo na ang sektor ng agrikultura po ay lumago during the second quarter of the year, 1.6% in spite of the pandemic.
Secretary, pardon me, but I know this is not it's not your main line. But bakit maraming recoveries ang Pilipinas vis-a-vis with other countries?
Sir, marami po sa atin, sir, asymptomatic po, sir, at saka, sir, mild cases. If you will see in the graph, 55,236 cases. Out of that 55,000, 50,000 are only mild or 91.5% po, sir.
Mga kababayan ko, we close this Talk to the People program of the government by allowing me to say this, that government will account for every money. Sabi ko, dalawa ito, baka malito kayo na scandal. You might think of something else na one for the other. Dalawa ito, itong PhilHealth. Ito yung iniimbestiga ngayon ni Secretary Guevara. Yung ibang investigasyon sa Congress, o bahala sila. Basta ito, ang maglaro dito in the end, it will be filed before the ombudsman. Tapos, yan ang may skandalo, may nakawan ng pera. Itong COVID bayanihan 1 and 2, malinis ito. Ang humahawak sa itaas nito, si isang ahensya, integrated agencies. Pero ang sa pera, ang how do I say this? The people that I have tasked, yung binigyan ko ng responsibility, pagtingin ito na para mahusay ang takbo at walang nakukurakot na pera. Ang sa taas nito ay si General Lorenzana. Siya yung pinakamataas dito sa informal namin. Then it's Secretary Anyo, General Anyo. Then it's General Galvez, Secretary Galvez. Puro yan sila military. And why? Well, yan ang paniwala ko. People might disagree with me, fine. But I have been with government almost 40 years. I will end, kung buhayin ako ng Panginoon Diyos, 40 years. Bago ako, 40 years ako sa politika. Alam ko ang laro ng gobyerno, pati anang buhay. So ginagawa namin lahat, hintayin na lang natin yung bakuna. Merong medisina galing Japan, pati itong remdesivir, pati Avigan. Ito yung panglaban sa kung ano pa, ito yung sa lagnat. Hindi ito yung gamot. Ang gamot yung vaccine. Ang vaccine ay gawa sa katawan ng tao. Malapit na yan, Russia, China, I don't know if anybody, alam ko lang yung dalawa, nag-announce na meron sila and ready and willing to help. Both countries have lumabas ng statement that tulungan nila ako. Kung may bayad o hindi masyado klaro noon. But kung may bayad, dahil marami masyado, di utangin natin. Credit na lang. Or hanap tayo ng loan. But if it's not, I'm sure that they are willing to give us that na privilege of borrowing from them. Ang mauna, malapit na yan, ang China any day would announce it. Ang mauna sa bakuna, ulitin ko, ay yung mga tao na nasa listahan ng gobyerno na tumatanggap ng pantawid. Ito yung mga mahirap. Ang sunod yon, yung mga tao na hindi nakalista at mahirap. Hindi kayo. Kaya lang noon, palipat-lipat kayo ng lugar, wala kayong ikangatawag fixed address. Kaya hindi ka nakalista sa barangay. Sila ang susunod. Pero mauna sa lahat, ang mga military pati pulis. Kasi kung walang pulis pati military, babagsak tayo. Sino magwardya sa atin? At yung mga taga-gobyerno, kung gusto ninyo, ako ang mauna para magkaroon kayo ng kumpiyansa, or I can be the last Filipino to get, punahin kayong lahat. Pahuli kami. Basta sigurado ang pinag-usapan dito na hindi mahuli ang mga mahirap ngayon dito sa gobyerno na to. Maraming salamat sa inyo. Thank you.